Hello, galactic travelers, cosmic crew. What's up? A lot. Deep breath. We have major transits going on today in this Libra season as we're finishing up and reaching these final decans. Yesterday, the sun was conjunct Spica, which is the golden wheat in the Virgin's hand, and even represents Cygnus in the Bootes constellation, which is the wheat in his hand. So what does that mean? Well, I wanted to read the history of the star Arcturus. This is found in the constellation of Words. Arcturus is in the Bootes constellation. It's at 24 degrees of Libra. And let me just read, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Alpha A Bootes Arcturus is a golden red star situated on the left knee of the herdsman and the fourth brightest in the sky. Arcturus has been an object of the highest interest and admiration to all observant mankind from the earliest times, and doubles as one of the first stars to be named. For from Hesioid's day to the present, it thus appears throughout all literature, although often confounded with the Greater Bear, Ursa Major. Indeed, Hesiod's use of the word probably was for that constellation Bootes, except in two cases already quoted, where he unquestionably referred to this star, mentioning its rising 50 days after the winter solstice, the first allusion that we have to that celestial point. And its popularity supposed that our Arcturus is that of the book of Job. But there it merely is one of the early titles of Ursa Major, the revised version correctly rendering it the bear. Still, even now, the Standard Dictionary quotes for this the authorized versions. Quote, "Canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons?" Unquote. But like the prominent stars, it shared its name with its constellation. In fact, probably at first, and as late as Pliny's day, 23 to 79 AD, was a constellation by itself. Let me repeat that. In fact, probably at first and as late as Pliny's day, 23 to 79 AD, was a constellation by itself. Homer's Bootes doubtless was this, with possibility a few of its larger companions, and the 17th century German astronomer Bayer cited Bootes for the star. But in recent times, the latter has monopolized the present title. It was famous with the seamen of early days, even from the traditional period of Arcadian Evander, and regulated their annual festival by its movements in relation to the sun. But its influence has always been dreaded, as seen in the Greek astronomer Aratus, circa 270 BC, not even going to attempt that, and Pliny's 23 to 79 AD Horridum Situs, while Demosthenes is his action against Lacritus 341 BC tells us of a bottomry bond made in Athens on a vessel going to the river Borthininus, the modern Dnieper, and to the Tauric Chersonese and the Crimea and back. That stipulated for a rate of 22.5%. There's that 2.5 again. Interest if she arrived with the Bosporus before Arcturus, i.e. before its heliacal rising about mid-September, after which it was to be 30%. Its enchronical rising fixed the date of before Arcturus, i.e., date of the husbandman's Lastrutio Frugrum, and Virgil, 70 to 19 BC, twice made allusion in his first Georgic to its character as unfavorably affecting the farmer's work. Other contemporaneous authors confirmed this storm reputation, while all classical calendars gave the dates of its rising and setting. All right, so in the early days, all right, it's saying that Pliny's Cetus, while Demosthenes, in his action against Lycurgus, tells us of a bottomry bond made in Athens on a vessel going to the river Borsthenus and to Tauric and the Crimea and back, that stipulated for a rate of 22.5%. Interesting, because the star's at 24 degrees of Arcturus. There's 30 degrees in, right? 29 degrees, and then so, and then that led to the 30%. So that is talking about the degrees. Arcturus starts at 22 degrees. The actual star is at 24. But again, there are two different timelines that even I track when we do starseedology. One is more ancient, one is more current, because there are different timelines. So it's saying that it started at 22.5. SPICA is at 22 or 23. SPICA is a different star system than Arcturus. Spica is the golden wheat. And this all comes together, okay? Spica is the golden wheat. Spica is the pure, etheric, light energy. Spica beings have very energy-specific frequencies, and we are affected the most with different rays, different energy blasts, 5G, Wi-Fi, etc. We hold the frequency of energy in its purest form outside of a physical vessel. That is why Spica was so necessary in completing the human that we are today on this planet in a blended version. Arcturus is pivotal in the zodiac for the blending of this Spica etheric energy and the alpha draconic or lower matter animal within the physical flesh suit. So at 22, 23 degrees, we have Spica. Arcturus is at 24. Izar is at 28. Izar goes from 26 to 28. This is the reference that I've always said. Ptolemy says when Libra reaches 26 degrees that the sun will shine again. Izar is an alpha draconic unholy 6 star point. However, Izar is the way station for the alpha draconic seeds that came in to embody that energy frequency in this dimension. And Libra and Arcturus were pivotal in the merging of the Spica energy into the human for now. And again, no matter if you have these points or not, in this now, it's all connected within all human DNA. certain ones of us, especially a lot of the ancient star seeds, came here and have been clearing and balancing this energy. Arcturus was known as a way station, and Maru will call it midwifery, but it is a port, just like Antares and Vega. They are ports where we came in to this lower dimension. But Arcturus is more than that, because this is where we get the energy healing. This is where we understand color and vibration. And we spend hundreds of Earth years in the Arcturus Bootes as a soul constellation, especially when we were coming into this dimension for this now, right? Because we had to balance out that energy in order to even incarnate with those frequencies here. It's also the ancient Akash, because with Izar, you're blending the Alpha Draconic and the Arcturus, which Arcturus is so linked to the Cygnus and the original galaxy and constellations and stars that make up Cygnus from the ancient times, which then begat Fomalhaut and Regulus. So when we talk about Arcturus, we see them as only these mother energies that have this high healing. But what this is saying, and what I know to be true from my Akash as a speaking Arcturian Izar starseed, my Mercury is at 27 degrees conjunct Izar, is that the Arcturians are the ones that can help blend these energies, because they are the future blend of that energy. They are the ones that have walked the dark path, so that because without dark we have no light. This is all the balance. So Arcturus is significant. I want to keep going. Hippocrates, 460 BC, made much of the influence of Arcturus on the human body, in one instance claiming that a dry season after its rising. There's a dry season after its rising, because it's talking about the shift within humanity when that culmination is reached, because that's when we go through this shift. Agrees best with those who are naturally phlegmatic, with those who are of a humid temperate, and with women, but it is most inimical to the bilious. I have no idea what that means. And that, quote, diseases are especially apt to prove critical in these days, unquote. Disease, dis-ease, a shift and balance in energy, because no matter without cultivating the soul and mastery that we gain from Arcturus, which again is now available to all humanity. However, the work and the process still has to be done within each being and soul on this planet, which is why Libra season is this final battle, which is why we feel so off kilter right now. In many ways, it's because we are literally on the scales of Ma'at. We are literally being weighed. Is our heart light as a feather? This is why our minds are doing this. Blah, 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 blah. This is why Mercury is conjunct Venus. Arcturus is squaring, I believe, Sun is squaring Pluto, I believe. We've got Uranus on 0 degrees that's taking this imprint. all of this is cultivated. All these transits are being led by the ancient Akash within all of our internal DNA, because we are guiding the astrological events that are making this sacred geometry within our DNA that are literally balancing us out right meow. Continued. I'm gonna skip down a little. Astrologically, however, the star brought riches and honor to those born under it. An Egyptian astronomical calendar of the 15th century before Christ, deciphered by Renouf, associates it with the star Antares and the immense sky figure Manat. And Lockyer claims it as one of the objects of worship in Nile temples, as it was in the temple of Venus at Ancona in Italy. Again, here it goes back to the mixture of these bloodlines, these energy frequencies that a lot of us starseeds, ancient starseeds, that we're future time travelers, basically incarnated in that Egyptian timeline to set up the crystal grid, but also because we were balancing these energies at that point in time with the density on the planet. We had to do that with twins. We could not, twin souls, twin flames, we could not embody all of one of the other, okay? If you want to call it light and dark or high and low frequency, we couldn't embody both of those within one vessel, because the power and the charge of that balance we couldn't hold it in the physical vessel at that time because of the density on the planet. So that's where the twins and everything really started, which even goes back to Alpha Draconic, which goes back to Isis, Osiris, Sekhmet, and blah. I mean, blah, blah, blah. Yahshua, Mary Magdalene. We can go, right? We can even go further to Venus and Earth. We can, I mean, this is this whole twin separation, but within this now and in this time, after the precession of the equinoxes, this is why this is such a major shift. And so we are embodying both of those energies within our physical vessel now. And when we do, that creates the golden mean, which then creates the energy vortex and then allows us to actually steer our energy field and create. In India, it was the 13th nakshatra, Hindu moon mansion Swati, the good goer, or perhaps sword, but figured as a coral bead, gem, or pearl, and known there also as Nishtya, outcast possibly from its remote northern situation far outside of the zodiac, whence from its brilliancy it was arbitrarily taken to complete the series of Hindu asterisms. Hewitt thinks that it, or Capella, was the Aryaman of the Big Veda, and Edgins that it was the Tishtar usually assigned to Sirius. Okay, Capella is Orion. Capella is a third generation star. We've talked about Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse. We've talked about Bellatrix. Capella is the third. Those three stars are all linked to the Amazons, Wonder Woman. These are the female that inhabited this Orion energy and balanced it. And, you know, just like the Amazon women, you know, in the stories lived separate, right? And they lived as a maternal order. This is that energy. When we look at Tistar or Ishtar, it's usually assigned to Sirius. Sirius and Orion were the two warring factions. That is not only to save Earth, not only to save humanity, but when we embodied these two signatures, the lower and the higher, then what we did was bring in a program that then within, in this dimension, on all these timelines that we've lived, in order to embody that full signature, we had to understand the intuition and learn the lessons of the intuitive state of those frequencies. So what does that mean? That means, and this is what we talk about in starseedology, right? Because that is why we came here. We embodied both. It was like we said, okay, give me the enemy's blood and then I'll transmute it. We'll clear it. We have such a high frequency that we can clear it. But that high frequency wasn't used to being in a low dimension. The lower frequencies weren't used to having such a high, then the opposite. So embodying those two with intent then brought peace to those two different systems. This is what Arcturus is. This is what Libra is, and why it's so impactful in this shift. This is why the starseeds in the 70s, born in the 70s, you know, are the starseeds that first came here and embodied this energy, and in the 60s prior. But the starseeds that were born in the 60s brought that frequency here. So, and basically fertilized the soil, raised enough of the consciousness and had that frequency lift, so that those of us that came in after the major solar flare on August 7th, 1972, could then be born, because our templates held this is our Arcturus Spica energy, and it was so important because it was this current template that's now available to all, but it's the culmination and the balance of it. So this is why Pluto was in Libra when most of us incarnated, okay? The Arabs knew Arcturus as Al-Sinek al-Rami. Allen notes the word Simak is from a root meaning to raise on high, and is thought to have been employed by the Arabs when they wished to indicate any prominent object high up in the heavens, but with special reference to this star and to the other Simak, Spica of the Virgin. Sometimes translated the leg of the lance bearer, and again, perhaps more correctly, the lofty lance bearer. From the Arabic title came various degenerate forms: Aramic, Aramic, Aramia, Asimic, Azimak, and Azimeth, found in thou queer compendiums of stellar nomenclature, the Alphonsine tablets, and the Alamegest of 1515. Notice there's 1515 again, 1515 Isis, Semuk Haramuk of English writer on globes of John Kilmeade, circa 1639's treatise, and Aramuk, which Karsten Niebuhr heard from the Arabs 136 years ago. 136 years ago, we could go somewhere with that. The Keturis of the predecessors already alluded to under Bootes also was used for this. The idea of a weapon again manifested itself into the Kantaraktos, javelin bearer of the Greco-Persian tables, while the 17th century German astronomy bear had Gladius, Calanza, and Puggio all applied to Arcturus, which probably marked in some early drawings the sword, lance, or dagger in the hunter's hand. Similarly, it took the title of Alchemilus of whole constellation. Please forgive my words. I'm having such a hard time just reading normal words right now. Al-Haris al-Sama, the keeper of heaven, perhaps came from the star's early visibility in the twilight owing to its great northern declination, as through on the lookout for the safety and proper deportment of its lesser stellar companions. And so, patriarch mentor of the train, this became Al-Haris al-Samak, the keeper of Samak, probably referring to Spica, the unarmed one. Again, okay, it's the culmination of what we would consider the light and the dark. It's the side with the sword and the side that is unarmed, because it is pure in its form. The Persian astronomer Al-Biruni, 973 to 1048 AD, mentioned Arcturus as the second calf of the lion. The early Assad Arabs had an enormous lion, their early Assad, extending over a third of the heavens, of which the stars Arcturus and Spica were the shin bones, Regulus the forehead, the heads of the Gemini, one of the four paws, Canis Minor, the other, and Corvus, the hindquarters. Many Arab star names come from this tradition, star names, Spica being the first calf. Now, that is, we just named Arcturus, we named Spica, this is Regulus, this is Gemini, which is Orion, then we have Canis Minor, Corvus. Corvus is in Libra as well, I'm almost positive, because I have all those, but whatever, because that is the original template. This was the original template, and how the stars were set, Regulus being the forehead, which was the ruler of all. It has been identified with the Chaldeans, Papsukal, the guardian messenger, the divinity of the 10th month of Tibitu, while Smith and Sayce have said that in Euphrates it was the shepherd of the heavenly flock, or the shepherd of the life of heaven. Undoubtedly the Sibziana of the inscriptions. The star Eta, Mufrid, being often included in this, and thus making one of the several pairs of the Euphratian twin stars. I cannot remember offhand exactly where Mufrid is, but we had a huge transit just a couple of months ago with Mars and Mufrid. I did a video on it. Is Mufrid Sirius? I'm going to have to look. It has been identified, okay, wait. In 1515, again that date, and remember 1515 was 2.5 years prior to 1518, which was that huge Venus, the last huge Venus transit. So this is what that transit set up. It set up, we finally got to the point where in 1515 we even had the ability to, these energies even showed up so that we could then embody and then ground them. But we set this all up. Oot, oot. In 1515, Almagest and the Alphonsine tablets of 1521 add to their list of strange titles at Numitar Arians, which seems unintelligible unless the word be a misprint of Audens, the bold one. John Day Wycliffe, in his translation of Amos V8 in 1383, had it Atur, which he took from the Vulgate's Arcturus for Ursa Major, but John of Trevisa in 1398 more correctly wrote, Arcturus is a signa made of 7 stars, but properly Arcturus is a steer set behind the tail of the singe that height Ursa Major. Again, that's just talking about what I've been saying with this blend, and it is the 7 stars because Arcturus is more. It inhabits the entire galactic signature, which is how we were able to pull that into the current human template and now into the O blood. But we all had fractals of it and had to ground it and balance it. Some of us had all the templates on higher and lower timelines. Some of us, had made that imprint, just like the starseeds that came in the 60s. With the others, it was Arcturus and Aritor, or the Carwe Nester, from the early confusion in applying the title Arcturus to Charles Wain, as well as to Bootes and its Lucida, brightest star in the constellation. Prominent as this star always has been, and one of the few to which the 2nd century Greek astronomer Ptolemy assigned a name, yet its position has greatly varied in the drawings. Indeed, in the earliest it was located outside of the figure and so described as syntaxis. It has been on the breast, in the girdle, whence, perhaps, came the 17th century German astronomer Bayer's Arcturzona. On the leg, between the knees, Robert Record, the first English writer on astronomer, in 1556, mentioning in the Castle of Knowledge the very bright star Arcturus, which standeth between Bootes his legs, as some of its titles denote, on the weapon in the hand, but since Durer's time it has as usually marked the fringe of the tunic. Arctophylax, the bear keeper, is so named because it followed Arctos, that is, the great bear, Ursa Major. People also have called this constellation Bootes because it attached to the Wain, Ursa Major. It is a very noticeable sign with its many stars, one of which is Arcturus. Arcturus is a star located in the sign of Bootes beyond the tail of the great bear. For this reason it is called Arcturus, as if it were the great Arctos Aura, or the tail of the bear, because it is located next to the heart of Bootes. It rises in the season of autumn. In India, Arcturus was the 13th nakshatra, Hindu moon mansion, Swati. Oh gosh, perhaps the sword. Okay, I've already read that. The second. So let's just go here. True, in the name of men have given him the bear warden. Threatening like, he presses forward as one does over a team of bullocks. To those born under Arctophylax Arcturus, fortune herself makes hold to entrust her treasures, so that the wealth of monarchs and temple finances will be in. Translator's notes. Custodianship is a suitable endowment for the bear ward. They will be kings under kings and ministers of state, and be charged with the guardianship of the people, or as the stewards of grand houses, they confine their business to the care of another's home. Translator's note. Strictly speaking, Arcturus is a star, but the name is used by ancient astrologers for the whole constellation of Bootes, and for the star alone it is often difficult to distinguish which of these authors are referring to. Let's look at this. When we talk about the wealth of the monarchs and the temple finances, and we talk about custodianship and the endowment of the bear ward, and we talk about they will confine their business to the care of another's home, we are talking about ancient Akash. Akash is the remembrance. This is the ability, once your body reaches this vibration of balance, to tap into these much higher dimensions of Akash. The reason that it is assigned these riches, quote unquote, and endowments, quote unquote, is because this is the Akashic Library. Arcturians have the entire Akash lineage. This is why when I tapped in and when I awoken, it's like I awoke to like all this knowledge that I had no idea of, and most of it, actually all of it, for the most part, is pre-human because of that negative, that RH negative. It's just the more ancient lineages. But that is the culmination of it all. So when you reach that balance point, and this doesn't even matter if you're from Arcturus anymore, because so many of us have reached that balance and have integrated this ancient Akashic information. This is what is now penetrating throughout the collective as people reach those consciousness layers. According to Ptolemy, it is of the nature of Mars and Jupiter, but Alvidas substitutes Venus and Mercury conjoined. What did we just have the past 2 days? Venus and Mercury conjoined. And then we hit Arcturus. Whoa. It gives riches, honors, high renown, self-determination, and prosperity. The bear leader guardian, meaning observer of the great bear or the saucepan or big dipper respectively, main star of constellation Bootes equals driver of oxen, has a Jupiter-Mars nature. The Jupiter-Mars nature is going to be the Antares or the Alpha Draconic, that what we would consider the part of us that was the enemy, but it really was just a part of us. And this is why the Arcturians have so much ability, and this is why we go there to study and to balance these energies before coming into this dimension. Because without understanding that we created all the darkness, we are that, we can't balance it out because we hold judgment, we hold pain, we hold emotion in a physical body to those experiences that we perceive in this dimension as evil. Whereas you cannot find pure beauty, and you cannot find the pure balance, and you cannot own that energy without accepting the fact that that energy is just a part of you. Because without understanding that, then the evil will always control you. This is how the light will always win, because we came from the darkness. We created the darkness to blend into the light. Main stars of the constellation Bootes, Jupiter, Mars nature, and a reputation of achieving justice through power. It therefore makes the native belligerent and quarrelsome, especially if attached to Mars and Jupiter by conjunction. A really go-ahead and enterprising spirit is here the rule, as indicated by Jupiter and Mars. Lasting success is promised if further good aspects are present. If there's balance, if critically aspected, the good influence will be hampered or made into a real handicap. It is involved in legal action. Such a native may lose all. And that's what we kept doing. That's why we got stuck. That's why it was so critical for us to come and make these connections and balance it, because this is why we can turn on a dime. You know, if we're not balanced, we can be Mother Fairy and within a minute just turn into rawr. That's because it exists in all of us now, but this was that energy. This is also why up to this point we didn't see a lot of really successful Libras, because we were getting pushed into servitude, but we were so fierce. And so it was like a double whammy keeping us down, because we knew that wasn't ourself. We knew that we were really Wonder Woman. We knew that what we were creating and doing was correct, but society in these lower dimensions always kept us second guessing. This is why the women, this is why the matriarch was taken over. This isn't anything new as far as the mission that we've been on and bringing in this shift. It's also, you know, Libra is the east, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor represent north and south. This is the pole flip. This is it. So I wanted to make this video today, and I wanted to just say I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. so grateful to the Arcturians. I'm so grateful to Spica. I'm so grateful to Izar. I'm grateful Alpha Draconis, Zeta Reticuli, Sirius, Orion. You know, the Sirius star seeds are where these timelines flip off. And when we talk about timelines and we go from Egypt to Joshua and Mary Magdalene, understand that's only a timeline slip. That's only because the people left, the Holy Grail, if you will, left Egypt and went into this other area. Oh my God, I just had a major kink in my neck. So then that's whenever we flip timelines. So, you know, the argument can be made, Cleopatra is Mary Magdalene and King Tut was Joshua, but it's all the same energy. And this is where Sirius is linked in, because with the Orions could not manifest without the Syrian knowledge to do so. The Syrian didn't have the physical matter vessel to manifest in this plane. We could teach, but we could not do. This was the whole marriage between Joshua and, yes, I said marriage, between Joshua and Mary Magdalene. We are the culmination of those two now within a physical vessel, which is the 13th bloodline, the true 13th bloodline, and is Sarah, which is us. This is what's been hidden throughout the ages. This is the temple in France. If you have to go underground, this is why this temple was built, in order to worship Sarah, which was the actual child of Mary Magdalene and Joshua. Yes, she lived, and she lives within each of us. We are here. We are balanced. We are whole. And within our physical vessel and within all of the energy of our Akash, we balance these two energies to manifest the future of humanity. We give thanks to all the generations, all the galactic star races that culminated to blend this energy for this now. We give thanks for this in all of the suffering. We thank our dark side. We thank the Illuminati. We thank all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because without that polarity, we could not have seen and gained the light and the balance of all. Even though we are thankful, it is now over. For we embody this energy, and all of this is coming back to light, and we raise up and we stand up and we call in the balance of our heart. And we know now that this trigger back and forth in our mind that we're feeling right now, and with is it good, is it bad, we understand that that is because in our vessel we now hold the dark and the light. But none of that even really matters. All of that's just coming up in every decision that we make, because we are now gifted the knowledge of the dark, so that we know not to make that mistake again. When we do, we balance out. We get an experience that then reminds us where we went wrong, and that's okay. But this is the mastery that Arcturus is bringing to humankind and to mankind in this now. And so it is.